God sees what people think you can't see. People think they can disrespect you in silence and walk away clean. They assume if you don't react, you didn't notice. But let me tell you something. God doesn't just see your pain, He hears your silence. He watches when they roll their eyes behind your back, when they laugh at your dreams, when they use your kindness as a weakness. He sees every little moment they think is hidden. And just because He doesn't move in that same second doesn't mean He won't move at all. See, you've got to understand that God don't miss a thing. When you cried in the bathroom after they embarrassed you in public, He saw that. When you gave your all and they returned it with attitude and disrespect, He was standing right there. When they looked at you like you were nothing, He was storing it up. Every word, every insult, every moment of mockery. Don't ever think for 1 second that your pain is invisible. There's a reason you've been kept calm. There's a reason you didn't go off. It ain't because you were weak, it's because God was holding you together while He handled what was coming behind the scenes. That's real strength. That's real divine control. You're not here to clap back. You're here to stand back and let God show out. The biggest mistake they made was thinking your silence was weakness. They underestimated the power behind your patience. They thought you were soft because you didn't retaliate, but what they didn't know was that heaven was keeping score. You were never alone. That moment you kept your head down in a storm was the moment angels were sent to fight battles you didn't even know were forming. And the thing about God is, when He sees injustice, He doesn't just fix it. He flips it. He turns it in a way where the very people who disrespected you will have to witness your rise. He puts you in positions where they have no choice but to acknowledge the one they tried to belittle. That's how God works, subtle in the storm, loud in the blessing. You didn't have to defend yourself. You didn't have to prove anything. All you had to do was stay faithful, stay grounded, stay real, because God saw it all. And when God sees it, He responds in ways no man can interrupt. That's why you never have to match their energy. God's energy is bigger. His moves are louder. His justice is stronger. Some of y'all are still healing from things nobody apologized for. And that's okay, because God doesn't need their apology to restore you. He doesn't need them to say sorry before He blesses you in front of them. He's not waiting for them to act right. He's already planning how to make them watch you walk in everything they thought you didn't deserve. That disrespect wasn't random. It was strategic. The enemy thought if they disrespected you enough, you'd start disrespecting yourself. But you held on. You stood tall. You kept your head up, even when your heart was heavy. That's how you know you're favored. That's how you know you're protected. Because you didn't fold under pressure. You flourished in it. And here's the truth. People forget that God is a witness, not just to your pain, but to their behavior. And when the time comes, He won't just elevate you quietly. He will do it publicly. He will use the very people that tried to bury you as soil to grow your next chapter. That's how God turns disrespect into divine direction. You see, the disrespect wasn't about you. It was about who you were about to become. That's why it hurt so bad. That's why it came from people you trusted. Because the closer you get to your destiny, the louder the enemy gets. But the beauty is, God already knew. He saw it before you even experienced it, and He already planned your comeback. When people thought they could break you with their words, they didn't realize they were building your testimony. When they thought they were pushing you down, they were actually pushing you closer to the throne. God doesn't just watch you suffer. He watches how you respond. And when you respond with grace, He responds with favor. So don't let their disrespect live in your head. Let God handle it. Your job is to heal. Your job is to grow. Your job is to move in silence while heaven moves in power. The same folks who laughed at you will soon be looking for your advice. The same ones who doubted you will be quoting your wisdom, and I promise you this, when God steps in, it won't be subtle. It'll be undeniable. You won't have to explain how you made it. You won't have to defend your success. They'll know it was God. They'll know it was favor. They'll know the same one they disrespected is the one they now have to respect. You're not forgotten. You're not forsaken. You're not defeated. You're being prepared for a stage that will silence every hater, every liar, every doubter. And all you had to do was survive the disrespect. God will do the rest. Disrespect doesn't cancel God's plan. Let me tell you something real. What they said about you doesn't matter. What they did to you doesn't cancel what God has already spoken over your life. People can throw shade, people can walk away, people can count you out, but they ain't got the power to cancel God's blueprint. That plan is already sealed, signed by heaven, stamped by grace, and nobody walking this earth has the authority to veto what God already approved. Disrespect is loud. It's bold. It tries to knock the wind out to your purpose. But just because someone tried to humiliate you doesn't mean you've lost your value. A diamond in the dirt is still a diamond. Just because they treated you like you were disposable doesn't mean you aren't divine. God didn't base his plan for your life on their opinion. He based it on your purpose, and that purpose is untouched by their ignorance. People think they can slow your blessing by talking behind your back. They really believe if they rally enough people against you, they can change your outcome. But let me give you the truth. Your outcome was set before you even entered the fight. The battle was fixed. That blessing was written before they ever knew your name, and no level of disrespect can erase what was written in the blood. They might have said you weren't good enough. They might have tried to play you like you were average. But the mistake they made was assuming their words had the final say. God's word is final, and his word says you're chosen. His word says you're covered. His word says no weapon formed against you will prosper, not even the weapon of disrespect. Disrespect is a test, not a cancellation. It's a test of your endurance, a test of your identity, a test of whether you'll let someone else's opinion rewrite your destiny. And when you pass that test, when you rise above the petty, when you stay grounded in who you are, God promotes you. He honors the one who didn't fold under fire. You've got to stop letting people's lack of character mess with your confidence. What they think about you isn't your business. Your business is walking in the calling that was assigned to you. Your business is showing up with grace when they expect you to break. Because every time you keep walking in purpose, despite their disrespect, you prove you're built for more. See, they thought if they disrespected you enough, you'd step off your path. But what they didn't realize was that God uses disrespect to redirect. He lets you feel the sting so you'll never confuse a seat at their table with a seat at his. He lets the door slam in your face so you'll stop begging and start building. And that's when the real shift happens. Some people were meant to disrespect you just so they could be witnesses when God elevates you. He's going to make sure they're in the room. He's going to make sure they see it with their own eyes. Because when God blesses you, he makes it undeniable. The same ones who tried to break you will have to watch you break through. Disrespect never defines you. It reveals them. It shows you who was never meant to go with you. It exposes hearts. It clears the path, and it sharpens your focus. You come out of that disrespect stronger, wiser, more determined. You learn how to love yourself deeper. You learn how to depend on God harder. You might have been dismissed, but you were never disqualified. You might have been overlooked, but you were never forgotten. You might have been disrespected, but you were never unworthy. Because the truth is, God's plan for you is not based on your popularity. It's based on your purpose, and your purpose is bulletproof. You've got to understand something. People don't have to like you for God to bless you. They don't have to support you for God to open doors. They don't even have to apologize for God to vindicate you. His plan doesn't require their permission, and their rejection is often the redirection you needed to walk into something greater. There are some rooms you'll never be invited into because God doesn't want you lowered to fit in. He wants you elevated to stand out. Disrespect is often the sign that you outgrew the environment, that you were too big for the space they tried to keep you in. And when you realize that, you stop chasing validation and start embracing elevation. So let them talk, let them mock, let them disrespect. You don't have to fight for your spot. You don't have to prove your worth. The same God who called you is the same God who's going to show up and show out. And when he does, it won't be to prove them wrong, it'll be to prove he was right all along. You've got to keep walking like the plan is still intact, because it is. You've got to keep believing like the blessing is still on the way, because it is. And you've got to keep loving yourself like you're worthy, because you are. Disrespect may delay you, but it will never derail what God already declared. Your value ain't up for debate. It's divine, let me say this loud, so your soul can hear it. Your value was set by God before they ever had a chance to misjudge you. Before they rolled their eyes at you, before they talked down on you, before they whispered lies behind your back. Your value was already written in heaven, and no amount of disrespect can rewrite what God already declared. You are not up for negotiation. You are not up for approval. You are chosen, and that ain't up for debate. See, when people don't recognize your worth, it's not your job to shrink yourself. It's not your job to chase them down and beg them to see you. Your job is to remember who you are. Your job is to walk like your value comes from above, not from opinions. People will try to label you based on their limited vision, but God gave you worth that reaches beyond their understanding. You were born with it, and no amount of betrayal can remove it. You've got to understand. People often disrespect what they can't define. They don't know what to do with someone like you, so they try to box you in. They try to downplay you because they're intimidated by the light you carry. But dimming your light to make them comfortable is not your assignment. You weren't created to blend in. You were designed to stand out. And when God crafted you, He didn't ask for their opinion. The moment you realize your value is divine, you stop entertaining conversations that question it. You stop allowing people access to you who only want to drain you. You stop apologizing for your standards, your boundaries, your growth. Because when you know who you are, you stop letting people who don't matter decide how you feel about yourself. Some of y'all been giving discounts to people who never planned to pay full price for your love, your loyalty, your time. You've been settling for crumbs because you forgot you're the table. But the disrespect didn't lower your value. It exposed who couldn't afford it. You're not too much. You were just around people who wanted you to be less so they could feel like more. Your value doesn't rise and fall with who stays or who leaves. That breakup didn't make you less. That rejection didn't lower your worth. That gossip didn't dent your identity. What they said about you doesn't carry eternal weight. Only what God says lasts forever. And He said you're fearfully and wonderfully made. That's not poetry, that's power. When you walk like you know your value, people will either respect it or remove themselves. And either way, you win. Either they rise to meet your standard, or they make space for someone who will. You don't have to fight for a seat at their table when you were born to build your own. You don't need validation from broken people. You need to trust the voice that created you. The people who disrespected you were necessary, not because they were right, but because they reminded you to get back in alignment with your worth. Sometimes God allows you to be disrespected, so you stop depending on approval and start standing in your anointing. Their disregard was the wake-up call. It didn't break you. It awakened you. Let me tell you something. Your value doesn't make sense to people who profit off your insecurity. As long as you doubt yourself, they feel big. As long as you lower your standards, they feel in control. But the moment you rise, the moment you speak life over yourself, The moment you say, I know who I am, they get uncomfortable, and that's okay. Growth will always make the insecure squirm. You weren't created to convince people of your worth. You were created to walk in it boldly, to live it fully, to carry yourself with the kind of dignity that makes insecure people uncomfortable. And if they can't handle your shine, they were never meant to be in your circle. Stop lowering your brilliance for people who prefer the dark. There's power in knowing you're enough, power in not needing to prove anything. Power in realizing that your value doesn't fluctuate based on the weather of someone else's mood. You can't be priceless and still beg people to treat you right. You've got to believe in your worth, even when they treat you like you're invisible. Your value was never determined by who stayed or who left. It was determined by who made you, and when the Creator calls you worthy, there's nothing the creation can say to undo it. So stop tying your identity to temporary people. Stop letting broken folks define your wholeness. You are divine by design. So yes, they disrespected you. Yes, they underestimated you. But let them. Their failure to recognize your worth says more about them than it does about you. You keep walking like royalty. You keep speaking with grace. You keep shining like the crown never fell, because it didn't. You were born with it. You just forgot for a moment, and now you're remembering. And when you walk in that kind of confidence, the kind that comes from above, not only will you stop tolerating disrespect, but you'll start attracting divine alignment. People will come into your life who don't just recognize your value, they'll protect it, honor it, and celebrate it. Because when you know what you carry, the whole world shifts in response. Delay ain't denial. God's timing is revenge enough. Some of the pain you're feeling right now ain't punishment. It's preparation. The delay you've been going through isn't because God forgot you. It's because He's preparing something they can't interfere with. When people disrespect you and walk off thinking you'll never rise, they assume silence means defeat. But silence doesn't mean it's over. It means God is working in the unseen. And when He shows up, He shows out in a way that shuts down every lie ever spoken on your name. People love to talk during your waiting season. They love to point out what's missing. Where's her blessing now? I thought she was favored. Didn't she say God would make a way? But see, what they don't understand is that God's way is not always instant. He's not Amazon Prime. He's eternal. He's strategic. And sometimes the greatest clapback God ever gives your enemies is the way He makes them wait and watch, while He builds something unshakable in your life. Delay isn't denial. That's what you've got to keep telling yourself. Just because it's not happening now doesn't mean it won't happen. Just because they're mocking you now doesn't mean they won't be amazed later. God lets some blessings marinate. He lets the haters talk just long enough so they'll still be present when the harvest hits. Sometimes the delay is part of the lesson, because if He gave it to you too soon, you would have still been surrounded by the same people who disrespected you. If He opened the door too early, the wrong folks would have tried to come in with you, but the delay gave you time to discern. It gave you time to detach. It gave you time to heal. And now you're about to walk into what they thought you didn't deserve, with clarity. The ones who disrespected you thought the delay was evidence of your failure. What they didn't know was that God was saving the best for when the noise died down. They thought your silence was weakness. But you weren't silent out of fear. You were silent out of faith, because you knew deep down that God had not forgotten you. He was just building a blessing so big it required time. You've got to stop measuring your life by their timeline. Stop comparing your journey to theirs. They may have gotten the house first. They may have gotten the job, the man, the applause. But don't rush your process. What God is preparing for you is not just a blessing. It's a statement, a public declaration that He was with you the whole time, even when they laughed. There's something powerful about divine timing. It's like God waits for the exact moment when your enemies are most confident that you've failed, and then he turns it around. That's not petty, that's divine precision. He doesn't just restore, he sets the stage. He lets the ones who hurt you stay close enough to witness your comeback. Some of the people who left you did so because they didn't see immediate success. But they don't realize that you were never on their clock. You were on God's, and his timing may not make sense to man, but it makes miracles. He's not in a rush because he's not worried. When he says it's your time, it'll be undeniable. The reason you can't give up is because you're closer than you think. The reason the attacks got stronger is because the enemy sees what's coming. And the reason God is taking his time is because he's not just preparing the blessing. He's preparing you. Because he wants to make sure that when you receive it, you won't lose it again. The delay gave you discipline. It gave you wisdom. It gave you grit. That's why when the blessing comes, you won't question it. You'll walk into it with authority. You'll walk into it knowing who you are, what you survived, and why you're worthy. That's the kind of woman who doesn't just get blessed. She becomes a blessing. Every delay came with a lesson. Every disappointment built your strength. And now, when the door opens, you'll walk through like you own it. Because spiritually, you do. You paid the price in tears. You paid the price in betrayal. You paid the price in lonely nights and silent battles. And now, the reward is coming in God's timing, not man's. People think they've got you figured out, but they don't see the prayers you've been praying. They don't see the spiritual growth. They don't see the way God has been preparing your heart. So when the moment hits, they'll be shocked, but you won't. You'll smile not because you're surprised, but because you knew delay wasn't denial. God didn't say no. He said not yet. And now that not yet is about to turn into right now. And when it happens, you won't need revenge. You won't need to say a word. Your life will speak for itself. Your peace will be louder than their shade. Your glow-up will be louder than their gossip. And that, right there, is the sweetest revenge of all. So keep holding on. Keep trusting even when the calendar says you should have had it by now, because God doesn't follow time. He created it. And if he says it's coming, it's coming. Don't let their disrespect make you doubt. Don't let the delay make you quit. Your reward isn't just near, it's being handcrafted. And when it lands, it'll be clear that it was worth every tear you cried in the wait. Elevation always follows humiliation. Humiliation ain't the end, it's the setup. What looks like shame in one season becomes your testimony in the next. Don't you ever think that because they laughed at you, because they mocked you, because they dragged your name through the dirt, that your story is over. What they meant for shame, God will flip for glory. That's how he works. He takes what broke you and builds you. He takes your tears and waters the next level. That's the kind of God we're talking about. They laughed when you fell. They talked when you failed. They whispered when you were weak. But what they didn't know is that humiliation was just your soil. That pain you went through, it planted you. You didn't fall apart. You got buried for elevation. You weren't forgotten. You were being rooted, and anything with roots will rise in time. See, people think elevation is all about spotlight, applause, and open doors. But real elevation starts in the dark. It starts in the moments when you're broken but still believing, when you feel rejected but keep showing up, when you're crying yourself to sleep but wake up with fight in your spirit. That's the foundation of the next level. Every woman who's ever been humiliated and still stood tall, she's not weak, she's unshakable. You can't destroy someone who knows who's holding her up. And while they laughed, while they lied, while they overlooked you, heaven was preparing the comeback. One that doesn't need a mic drop. One that doesn't need to be loud, just undeniable. You've got to learn how to wear humiliation like armor. You've got to walk into rooms knowing you've already survived what they tried to use against you. That rumor, you outlived it. That betrayal, you healed from it. That failure, you grew from it. And now you're walking with a kind of strength that can't be faked. It's authentic. It's earned. What they did to try to break you only confirmed how powerful you really are. Because the truth is, people don't waste time trying to destroy what doesn't threaten them. If they tried to humiliate you, it's because they saw something great in you. They saw light. They saw potential. They saw elevation coming and tried to stop it early. But you can't bury someone who's planted by purpose. You can't stop what God has already greenlit. Humiliation may have been your chapter, but elevation is your headline. And when God lifts you, no one can deny it. Not the liars, not the critics, not the jealous folks who swore you wouldn't make it. Some of you are going to be blessed publicly in the same space you were broken. God's going to put a spotlight on the very area where they tried to shame you. You lost your job. He'll give you a business. They laughed at your dream. He'll make it global. They tried to humiliate your relationship status. He'll send someone who honors every part of you. The ones who humiliated you never expected you to rise with peace. They thought the damage would be permanent. But God doesn't leave you in pieces. He rebuilds with power. And when you get elevated, you'll thank Him not just for the blessing, but for the breaking, because now you love differently. Now you see clearly. Now you move wisely. Elevation comes with responsibility. And God wouldn't let you rise without first showing you who couldn't come with you. That humiliation exposed some faces, some friendships, some fakes. Be thankful for that season. It hurt, but it healed something deeper in you. It made room for better. It cleared the stage for your real audience. You ever notice how silent the haters get when you finally rise? They get real quiet. That's because elevation silences everything. You won't have to argue. You won't have to defend yourself. Your fruit will speak. Your glow will speak. Your peace will speak. And the very people who tried to humiliate you will either fade away or have to watch in awe. God's version of elevation isn't just about making you visible. It's about making you unshakable. It's about building your character, your patience, your faith. So when the blessing hits, you don't lose it. You don't get arrogant. You don't forget what He brought you from. You remember and you move with grace. So don't despise the season of humiliation. Use it. Let it push you. Let it mold you. Let it fuel the fire. Because when the time comes, when the door opens, when the favor falls, it's not going to look like revenge. It's going to look like restoration. And that kind of glow can't be faked. It's divine. They thought they broke you. But you were just being rebuilt. They thought they buried you. But you were just being rooted. And now, when you rise, don't even say a word. Just keep walking, because your elevation is speaking for you. God prepares a table in front of your critics. There's something powerful about a table. Not just any table, but one that God Himself prepares. A table isn't just a place to eat. It's a place to be honored, to be seen, to be served. And when God sets it up, it's not in private. It's in front of every person who said you weren't worthy. Every person who disrespected you, dismissed you, doubted you. They'll have front row seats to your feast. You don't have to chase down revenge. You don't have to explain yourself. God knows how to put you in a position where your presence speaks louder than their lies. The same folks who counted you out will have to watch you be blessed. And it won't be subtle. It'll be undeniable. He prepares the table in their presence, not behind their backs. That's how bold God is when He wants to honor you. You ever seen somebody eat in peace while others watch in silence? That's how it's going to be. You'll be walking in peace, living in purpose, glowing in joy, and the ones who tried to destroy you will be too shocked to speak. Not because they didn't try hard enough to tear you down, but because God built you up higher than they imagined. Some of the people in your life were sent to do one thing, distract you. Some were sent to disrespect you, and some were sent to make you question your worth. But God allowed it all, because He knew that the disrespect was going to make the meal taste better. He knew that your breakthrough was going to mean more when they had to watch you walk into it. They thought they buried your future when they walked away. They thought their lies would be your label. But instead of God removing them, he sat them down. He said, "Watch this." And then he began to bless you not just a little, but abundantly. Because when God wants to show the world who his daughter is, he does it with glory. You didn't need to beg anyone to stay. You didn't need to argue with anyone about your value. All you had to do was survive the storm and keep your eyes on God. And now he's preparing the table. That open door you're about to walk through, that break through that's on its way. It's your reward for enduring the disrespect with grace. Let them watch. That's not arrogance. It's divine justice. You stayed quiet when they lied. You stayed strong when they laughed. You stayed faithful when everything around you looked like failure. And God took notes, not just on what they did, but on how you responded. And now he's honoring the woman who didn't give up. There's a table with your name on it. And there's a chair for every critic who tried to block you, not so they can eat with you, but so they can witness what favor looks like. You'll be served peace, you'll be served love, you'll be served success. And they won't even be able to touch the meal. They'll just have to sit there and watch. God doesn't need to get even. He gets greater. He doesn't throw shade. He shines light. And when that light hits your life, it will be so bright that those who tried to destroy you will be blinded by your glow. They'll be confused. They'll be humbled. They'll be silent, because what God does can't be debated. Let that be your peace today. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to defend your name. The table is coming. The honor is coming, and every seat around that table will be filled with people who thought your story was over. They'll be sipping on their pride while you feast on God's promises. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're being positioned. You're being prepared for a moment so powerful that even your enemies will have to say, "Only God could have done that." That's the table God sets, not one you force your way into, but one he personally prepares. They will have to watch you live, watch you shine, watch you succeed, and not just once, but consistently, and they won't be able to stop it, because when God prepares the table, no one can flip it over. It's fixed, it's firm, it's yours, and it was worth every tear you cried getting there. So don't worry about who left. Don't worry about who laughed. Don't worry about who looked down on you. They'll see. Not because you want revenge, but because God wants honor. He wants the world to know that when you're his, disrespect doesn't destroy you. It sets the stage for your seat at the table. Her tears were prayers in disguise. Now comes the payback. Some folks saw her crying and thought she was weak. They saw her breaking down and assumed she was broken. But what they didn't realize was, those weren't just tears. Those were prayers, silent ones, powerful ones. Those tears were conversations with God when no one else was listening. They were made in moments where her heart was shattered, but her faith refused to give up. See, people often underestimate a crying woman. They think the tears mean she's lost. They think the pain means she's defeated. But behind every tear she cried was a message that reached heaven, a cry that said, "Lord, I can't take this, but I trust you." That kind of cry ain't weakness, it's warfare. That's how a woman fights when words fail. That's how she survives when she's surrounded by silence and disrespect. They thought her crying made her fragile, but God saw her crying and said, "That's strength in its purest form." Because she didn't run to people, she ran to him. She didn't fight back with fists. She fought back with faith. And now those tears that stained her pillow are watering the blessing that's about to come into full bloom. She cried over the betrayal. She cried over the lies. She cried over being overlooked, underestimated, and mishandled. And through it all, God was collecting every single tear. He wasn't ignoring her. He wasn't distant. He was storing those tears like seeds. Seeds that would grow into favor, into elevation, into a future so bright that even the darkness has to respect it. Some of the most dangerous women in the world are the ones who have cried their way through the fire and came out worshiping. They didn't cuss back. They didn't fight dirty. They didn't let the enemy pull them out of character. They just cried, prayed, and waited. That kind of patience, that kind of spiritual poise, that's why the payback is about to be so divine. Because God doesn't forget tears. He doesn't overlook pain. He doesn't ignore injustice, especially when it comes from his daughters. And now he's about to move, not out of pity, but out of promise. He said he would restore. He said he would vindicate. And now he's about to show everybody what it looks like when heaven responds. Her tears weren't wasted. They were investments. They bought her peace. They bought her power. They bought her a testimony that money can't buy. And now the tables are turning. The same ones who mocked her will have to marvel at her. The same ones who disrespected her will have to witness her rise. And they won't be able to deny that God was with her the whole time. She prayed with her pain. She worshipped with her wounds. She trusted through the trauma. And now she's about to walk into a season where joy will overflow. The smile she's about to wear won't be fake, it'll be earned. Because when God turns mourning into dancing, it's permanent, and it silences every critic. She's not bitter, she's better. Because while they were watching for her downfall, she was kneeling for her breakthrough. And now that breakthrough is coming, the pain didn't break her. It built her, and the tears didn't drown her. They baptized her into a new level of strength, grace, and glow. So let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them question how she made it. The answer will always be, she cried, and God answered. Not with words, but with action. Not with noise, but with blessings. Not with revenge, but with restoration that makes the hurt worth it. There's a glow that comes after the storm, a light that doesn't come from makeup, money, or followers. It comes from surviving. It comes from surrendering, and that's what she's carrying now. A peace that can't be shaken. A joy that can't be stolen. A favor that can't be copied. They laughed when she cried, but they won't be laughing when she rises. Because the woman they disrespected is not the woman they'll see next. She's stronger, she's wiser, she's softer in spirit but firmer in purpose, and now every tear she ever cried will be turned into triumph. That's the kind of payback God gives, not loud and messy, but elegant and undeniable. He won't just restore what was lost, he'll double it. He'll beautify what was broken. He'll elevate what they tried to destroy, and she won't even have to open her mouth. The blessing will do the talking. So if you're in a season of tears, don't give up. Don't think God's ignoring you. He's not. He's building something. And when the time is right, you'll understand why it took the pain, the tears, the silence. Because the glow that's coming will be louder than every insult you endured. Every insult they threw, every smirk they gave, every name they called her. God saw it. He didn't miss one word. He didn't overlook one tear. He didn't ignore one moment where she stood silent, holding back the storm inside her. They thought they were getting away with it. They thought they could belittle her, betray her, walk over her, and still be blessed. But what they forgot is, she's God's daughter, and he don't play about his daughters. He saw how she stayed quiet when she could have clapped back. He saw how she remained graceful in the face of gossip. He saw how she carried herself with dignity even when she was disrespected. And that's why her payback won't come from her, it'll come from heaven. She didn't fight for revenge. She stayed faithful. And now the same people who disrespected her will have to watch her be honored. The beauty of this whole thing is, she never had to lose her character to prove a point. She never had to match their mess. She never had to beg to be seen. She kept her crown on in the chaos. And now, God is about to crown her with something that no hater can take, no liar can twist, and no enemy can block. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Let them wish they had treated her better, because the same tears they ignored are now watering her destiny. The same woman they disrespected is now the woman God is elevating. And no, She doesn't need revenge. Her success is the sermon. Her peace is the proof. Her glow is the glory. They thought they were breaking her. But God was building her, and now he's about to make every one of them regret it. Not because she's vengeful, but because he's just, and when he repays, it's never petty. It's perfect, it's powerful, and it's permanent. So to every woman who's been disrespected, overlooked, underestimated, hold on, keep your grace, keep your head high, because the God who saw it all is about to do it all.